It was a busy morning at the city airport. People were rushing through the terminals, pulling their luggage behind them, checking their phones, and trying to make it to their flights on time. The air smelled faintly of coffee and pastries from the small cafes that lined the corridors. Announcements echoed through the halls, telling travelers to proceed to security checks or gate numbers. Among all the activity, one pair stood out, though most people didn't notice them at first. Officer James Carter, a tall man with a calm but alert expression, walked steadily through Terminal 3. By his side was Rex, a large German shepherd with shiny black and tan fur and sharp, intelligent eyes that scanned everything around him. Rex was no ordinary dog. He had been trained for years to detect explosives, suspicious objects, and even hidden threats. His bond with Officer Carter was strong. The two of them had worked together for almost 5 years. They understood each other without words. Carter knew when Rex sensed danger, and Rex trusted Carter to keep him safe while letting him do his job. That morning, they were doing a routine patrol, walking slowly down one of the less crowded corridors. Travelers hustled past them, some glancing at the dog and smiling, others barely noticing the pair. Suddenly, Rex stopped. His paws planted firmly on the floor, his body tense, and his ears perked straight up. He stared at a small, nondescript bag sitting near a row of empty chairs. At first, Carter didn't think much of it. After all, lost or forgotten luggage happened often at airports. People left things behind by accident, and security had a procedure for handling it. But then Rex did something unusual. He let out a low, insistent growl and began barking sharply, his tail stiff behind him. "Rex." "What is it, boy?" Carter said softly, kneeling slightly to keep his voice calm. But Rex did not move. His eyes were fixed on the bag, his body rigid with focus. He barked again, louder this time, making a sound that was both urgent and commanding. Travelers nearby turned their heads. Some frowned, annoyed that the dog was making noise and drawing attention. Others stopped to watch, curiosity written all over their faces. Carter could feel their eyes on him, but he didn't look up. He knew Rex had a reason for reacting this way. Carter took a careful step closer to the bag, keeping a safe distance. He glanced around to see if anyone was near it, but the seats were empty, and no one seemed to have dropped it recently. The bag was small and worn, nothing unusual in appearance, just a plain black backpack with no tags. Yet Rex would not leave it. He barked and circled it once, then sat down, staring at it with unwavering focus. "Okay, Rex, you've got my attention," Carter said quietly. He lifted his hand in a signal, telling nearby passengers to step back. A few people obeyed, moving several feet away from the area. The mood in the terminal changed. People stopped rushing for a moment, sensing tension in the air. Some whispered nervously to each other. Carter could see that the normal buzz of the terminal had shifted to quiet curiosity, mixed with concern. He radioed into the security office. "Control, this is Officer Carter. Rex has alerted on an abandoned bag near Gate 14. I am requesting bomb squad assistance. No passengers in immediate area." His voice was calm, professional, but inside, he felt a familiar thrill of tension. He had been in situations like this before, and he knew better than to underestimate Rex's instincts. Every time Rex had reacted like this, there had been a reason. As they waited, Carter continued observing the bag and Rex. Rex's behavior was unusual in another way, too. Normally, when a dog detected a possible threat, he would circle, sniff, and sometimes retreat for safety. But Rex stayed close, almost as if protecting something inside the bag. Carter noticed the way Rex's eyes softened slightly at times, his growl changing to a quiet whine whenever the wind moved the bag slightly. There was a sense that whatever was in that bag was important, fragile even, and Rex had sensed it immediately. Passengers in the terminal began to gather at a safe distance, watching the scene unfold. Some recorded videos on their phones. One young woman whispered to her friend, "Why is that dog barking at a backpack? Is it dangerous?" Another man, carrying a suitcase, muttered, "It must be a bomb or something." Carter shook his head slightly. People always assumed the worst. He had learned that day after day, most alarms turned out to be false, but every once in a while, something real appeared. And with Rex's instincts, Carter could not afford to assume it was safe. The minutes passed slowly. The sound of Rex's barking echoed faintly through the terminal, drawing more attention. Children stopped in their tracks, watching the dog with wide eyes, some giggling nervously. Carter maintained his position, crouching slightly to keep himself low, yet ready to act. He checked the security cameras from his handheld device, but saw nothing suspicious. No one had been near the bag recently. The footage showed only empty chairs and quiet hallways before the crowd began moving past. Finally, the bomb squad arrived, moving cautiously and fully geared. They placed barriers around the area and began their careful inspection. Carter stepped back, letting the experts take over, but Rex stayed close, circling and barking intermittently. The dog's movements were tense but controlled. It was as if he knew something important was about to happen and wanted to be there every second. Passengers watched silently, some hiding their faces, others leaning slightly forward to see. The air was thick with suspense. Carter felt a strange mix of anxiety and pride. Anxiety because the unknown always carried danger, and pride because Rex's instincts had never been wrong. He could feel the eyes of the entire terminal on him, on the dog, waiting for the mystery to unfold. Rex suddenly barked sharply again, his body stiffening as the bomb squad cautiously moved closer to the bag. The leader of the squad, wearing a helmet and protective vest, knelt down to examine it. Rex growled softly, then sat, refusing to leave the bag. Carter's heart raced. He knew that the dog's behavior meant something unusual. It wasn't fear. It wasn't aggression. It was attention, focus, and care all at once. For a few moments, time seemed to slow. Travelers held their breath. Children clutched their parents' hands, and cameras silently recorded the suspenseful scene. Carter could see the dedication in Rex's eyes. The dog was waiting for a discovery, for the moment that would explain his strange behavior. Carter whispered quietly to Rex, "Good boy, hold steady. We've got this." And then, as the bomb squad carefully opened the bag with gloved hands, the first glimpse of what was inside became visible. Carter's breath caught, and Rex's tail wagged slightly in recognition. Whatever was in that bag was not dangerous, it was precious. The mystery that had drawn the attention of everyone in the terminal was about to be revealed, and it would leave everyone speechless. The airport terminal was unusually quiet now. Travelers who had been passing by earlier had stopped, sensing that something serious was happening. The small crowd had grown slightly, but everyone was standing at a safe distance, watching with wide eyes. Officer Carter remained calm, his hand resting lightly on Rex's shoulder, but inside he felt the familiar tension of anticipation. Rex, his loyal German shepherd, had not moved from the bag since he first alerted. Every instinct Carter had told him that the dog was correct. Something important, something unexpected, was inside. The bomb squad moved slowly, their gear clanking softly with each step. They placed a protective barrier around the bag and prepared their scanning equipment. Carter noticed the careful, methodical way they worked. Even trained as he was, he had to admit their caution was necessary. Airports had strict protocols for every situation, and this one was no exception. Rex, however, seemed impatient. The dog circled the bag once, then sat again, letting out a quiet whine. His ears flicked back toward Carter as if to say, "It's time. Don't delay," Carter whispered to him. "I know, boy. I know. Just hold tight." The bomb squad leader, a man named Officer Daniels, crouched near the bag, signaling to his team. He carefully pulled out a small device designed to detect explosives and scan the area around the bag. Carter observed every movement, keeping his eyes on Rex at the same time. The dog's tail wagged slightly whenever the scanner moved closer, but he never left the bag. Something about this behavior made Carter's heart beat faster. It wasn't fear or aggression that Rex showed. It was recognition, focus, and perhaps even relief in the moment before the truth would be revealed. Nearby passengers whispered nervously among themselves. Some speculated about dangerous situations, while others speculated about more mundane possibilities. Carter had grown used to these guesses. People always jumped to the worst conclusion when they didn't have the full story. He ignored the murmurs, focusing instead on the bag, the dog, and the bomb squad. He could feel the tension rising, a quiet electric feeling that made the hairs on his neck stand on end. Minutes passed slowly. Each second felt longer than the last. Carter's eyes never left Rex, who now sat rigidly, occasionally sniffing the bag and letting out short, alert barks. The bomb squad used remote equipment to scan the contents of the bag carefully. Every beep of the scanner made the passengers jump slightly, some clutching their phones to record the unfolding scene. Carter noticed a mother holding her young son, whispering to him to be quiet, though the boy's eyes were wide with fascination. The dog's unwavering focus had captured everyone's attention, creating a moment that felt almost cinematic in the otherwise ordinary airport. Finally, Officer Daniels spoke into his radio, his voice low but audible enough to be heard by Carter. "Control. Initial scans show no explosives, no dangerous materials detected. Proceeding with visual inspection." Carter exhaled quietly. Relief swept through him, but he remained cautious. Rex's behavior suggested that whatever was inside the bag was important, maybe even more important than anyone expected. Carter's instincts and Rex's trained nose had never been wrong before. The bomb squad began their careful inspection, opening the bag slowly. Every movement was deliberate, precise, and methodical. Carter took a small step closer, ensuring that he remained behind the protective barrier while keeping a watchful eye on Rex. The dog whined softly, pressing slightly forward as if encouraging them to hurry. Carter patted Rex's head gently. "Soon, boy. Soon, we'll see." As the bag was unzipped, a faint smell of cloth and something unfamiliar wafted into the air. Rex barked sharply once, then sat again, his body stiff with alertness. The passengers leaned slightly forward, curiosity and anxiety evident on their faces. No one had expected what would come next. Carter held his breath as Officer Daniels lifted the first item out of the bag. It was a small blanket, folded neatly. Carter's eyes widened slightly, and Rex let out a soft bark of recognition. Inside the blanket, something moved. The bomb squad froze, exchanging glances. The passengers murmured quietly, unsure of what they were seeing. Carter felt his chest tighten as he leaned forward slightly, his focus unwavering. He could see now that the bag was not dangerous, but it contained something fragile, vulnerable, and completely unexpected. With extreme care, the bomb squad lifted the blanket, revealing a small, shivering child. The child's eyes were wide with fear, and their tiny hands clutched the blanket tightly. Carter's heart sank. He had seen emergencies before, but there was something different about this. This was not just a security threat, it was a life in immediate need of care. Rex barked again, louder this time, as if celebrating the discovery while also warning everyone to be cautious. Passengers gasped softly. A few people whispered among themselves. "Is that a child?" One woman asked, her voice trembling slightly. Carter nodded subtly without speaking, Keeping his focus on the child and Rex, the dog's tail wagged once. Then he sat down obediently, watching the bomb squad gently place the child on a secure surface. Carter stepped forward, his training guiding him as he ensured the child was safe. The child's small body was shaking, and their face was pale from fear and cold. Carter knelt down slightly, speaking softly. "Hey there, it's okay. You're safe now. We've got you." Rex pressed close, nudging the child gently with his nose, as if offering comfort and reassurance. The bond between the dog and the child was immediate. Carter could see the child relax slightly, the fear slowly replaced by curiosity and relief. Authorities arrived soon after, including Child Protective Services and local police. They began asking questions, taking notes, and preparing to ensure the child's safety. Carter watched as the professionals worked quickly and efficiently. He felt a mix of pride and relief. Rex had not only alerted them to a potential threat, but had also led them to save a life. Carter patted the dog's head again. "Good boy, Rex. You did it." The dog's ears flicked back, and he barked softly once, as if acknowledging the praise. Passengers began to murmur quietly, some approaching cautiously to see if the child was okay. Carter maintained a calm presence, keeping the crowd at a respectful distance. The story of what Rex had found began spreading quickly among those who had witnessed it. Phones captured the moment, and soon people were quietly sharing it on social media. Everyone was amazed at the dog's instincts and the quick thinking of Officer Carter and the bomb squad. Carter reflected on the day so far. The airport was filled with people rushing to their destinations, but within this small area, a story of heroism, instinct, and care had unfolded. Rex's focus and training had turned a tense moment into a life-saving event. Carter couldn't help but feel gratitude for having such a capable partner. It was one thing to detect explosives or threats, but it was another entirely to detect a life in danger, a small child left alone in a busy terminal. The bomb squad finished their initial inspection and secured the bag, confirming that no danger remained. The child was wrapped in additional blankets, provided with warm drinks, and comforted by the attending officers. Rex remained by the child's side, watching every movement, his presence calming and protective. Carter smiled slightly, feeling the satisfaction of a job well done and a life saved as the authorities continued their work. Carter noticed the passengers' reactions. Some were teary-eyed, some smiling, and others nodding in quiet respect. Everyone seemed to understand that they had just witnessed something extraordinary. The ordinary day at the airport had been interrupted by an extraordinary act of courage, instinct, and teamwork. Finally, Carter radioed the control office. "Control, situation under control. Child safe, no threat detected." Rex performed exceptionally. Returning to patrol shortly, he looked down at Rex, who gave a small bark as if replying, "All in a day's work." Carter chuckled softly, patting the dog's head. They had faced tension, uncertainty, and the unknown. But together, they had made a difference. And while travelers resumed their journeys, some still glancing back at the scene in awe, Carter knew that today would be remembered not just for the calm professionalism of the airport staff, or the careful inspection of the bomb squad, but for the quiet heroism of a loyal police dog who refused to ignore an abandoned bag. Rex had followed his instincts, and those instincts had saved a small, frightened life. The airport had slowly returned to its usual rhythm, but in the corner of Terminal 3, a small group remained, quietly watching the aftermath of the extraordinary event. Officer Carter and Rex stayed close to the child, who was now wrapped snugly in a warm blanket, with soft toys placed around to comfort them. The little one had begun to relax slightly, though their big brown eyes still darted nervously around the busy terminal. Carter could see the mix of curiosity, relief, and concern on the faces of the passengers nearby. Everyone wanted to know how such a small, abandoned child had ended up alone in a crowded airport, and why Rex had sensed something unusual immediately. Authorities had begun their investigation. Child Protective Services officers approached with calm but firm steps, taking detailed notes and speaking gently to Carter and the bomb squad. Officer Daniels, the leader of the bomb squad, leaned toward Carter and whispered, "I've seen dogs detect explosives, narcotics, and other threats, but I've never seen a dog alert this strongly to a living person. That's remarkable." Carter nodded, keeping one hand lightly on Rex's head. He's not just trained for danger. He has instincts, a sixth sense for people in need. And today, that sense saved a life. Meanwhile, airport security staff began reviewing security camera footage, searching for any clue as to how the child had arrived in the terminal. The small backpack was carefully secured and tagged as evidence, but all eyes remained on the little one. Some passengers had started whispering among themselves, exchanging theories. Some thought perhaps the child had wandered away from their parents and gotten lost. Others, with a more serious tone, feared the worst, that the child had been deliberately left behind. Carter, however, focused on ensuring the child remained calm and comfortable. Rex, sensing the tension, pressed close, laying his large head gently on the child's lap. The child responded by reaching out to touch Rex's soft fur, giving a small, relieved smile. The child's name was soon revealed as Lily. She was 4 years old, with soft curly hair and a quiet but observant nature. When asked gentle questions by the child services officer, she could not speak much, only point occasionally or nod. Carter knelt beside her, speaking softly. "Hey, Lily, it's okay. You're safe now. Nobody's going to hurt you." Lily's eyes softened as she gazed at Rex, clearly trusting the dog completely. The bond was immediate and profound. Carter could see the relief on her small face, how her tiny hands relaxed as she stroked Rex's fur. While the child services officers spoke to Carter, they were simultaneously coordinating with local police to trace any leads on Lily's parents or guardians. The footage from the security cameras was analyzed frame by frame, but the moments leading to Lily's arrival at Terminal 3 were brief and confusing. No one had been seen carrying the bag onto the floor, and there were no indications of anyone abandoning her intentionally in the recorded footage. The mystery only deepened. Carter watched as the professionals worked efficiently, and yet a nagging sense of unease remained in the back of his mind. There was something more to this situation than met the eye. Passers-by, having witnessed the events, began quietly sharing their experiences with one another. Some commented on social media, posting videos of Rex barking at the abandoned bag. Others marveled at the way the dog had instinctively protected Lily, never leaving her side even when the bomb squad approached. Carter noticed a few of the travelers sneaking glances at Rex, whispering compliments about his skill and intelligence. Some of the airport staff stopped by to offer water or snacks, not just for Lily, but for Rex as well, who had been on his paws for hours, alert and vigilant. Carter accepted a small bottle of water, patting Rex gently as he drank Dot as the investigation continued. The airport terminal began to fill with quiet anticipation. Questions lingered in everyone's minds. How had a small child ended up alone in such a busy place? Why had Rex sensed her immediately when no one else did? And most importantly, what would happen next? Carter could see the mixture of curiosity and anxiety on the faces of the travelers and staff alike. Everyone wanted answers. The child services officers decided to conduct a careful interview with Lily, using gentle language and playful prompts to encourage her to speak. They asked about her parents, her home, and how she had ended up in the terminal. Lily's answers were limited. She could only point to things, nod, or shake her head. Carter knelt nearby, translating her small gestures when necessary. It was clear that she was frightened, but also that she trusted Rex and, by extension, Officer Carter. The bond between human and dog had made her feel safe in the midst of confusion and fear. Carter watched the scene unfold and felt a surge of gratitude for having Rex at his side. The dog's instincts had not just alerted them to the abandoned bag, but it also kept Lily calm, providing comfort in a way that no human could have done so immediately. Carter reflected on the countless hours of training, the shared experiences, and the deep bond he had formed with Rex over the years. Every alarm, every tense situation had prepared them for moments like this, where split-second reactions and trust could make the difference between safety and tragedy. As the bomb squad finished securing the bag and confirming no danger remained, local police officers arrived to support the investigation. They began asking questions of Carter and the airport staff, seeking to gather every possible piece of information. Meanwhile, the child services officers arranged a temporary care plan for Lily, ensuring she was fed, warm, and emotionally supported while the authorities traced her guardians. Carter observed quietly, making sure that Rex stayed close, his body tense but calm, ever watchful. Throughout the terminal, passengers continued to watch, some commenting quietly about the heroism of the dog. Others speculated about the mystery surrounding the child. Carter could hear snippets of conversation. "That dog knew something was wrong," one woman said to her companion. "Yes," the man replied, "and he saved her." Carter nodded silently to himself. It was true. Rex had sensed danger, or at least sensed that the child needed help, and his instincts had guided everyone to prevent potential harm. Hours seemed to pass slowly. Lily, now feeling slightly safer, clutched a small stuffed animal offered by the child services officers. Rex lay beside her, his head resting gently on her lap. Carter stood nearby, scanning the crowd and observing the continued activity around the investigation. Though the immediate danger had passed, the questions remained. Who had left her? Why? And how had she ended up alone in the terminal without anyone noticing? As the sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the terminal floor, Carter felt a sense of quiet relief. The child was safe, the bag had been cleared, and the situation was under control. Yet, he could not shake the feeling that the story was not over. There were still questions to answer, mysteries to unravel. Carter made a mental note to follow up with the authorities and ensure that Lily would be returned to safe hands. Meanwhile, Rex remained by her side, alert and protective. Every now and then, he would glance at Carter, as if reminding him that the work was not done until the child was truly safe. Carter patted the dog gently and whispered, "We're not finished yet, boy. But we're getting there." The bond between them, tested in countless situations over the years, was stronger than ever. Together, they had navigated tense uncertainty, and together, they had saved a life. Passengers slowly returned to their routines, though many could not forget what they had seen. The story of a police dog who barked at an abandoned bag, ultimately saving a small child, began to spread through whispers, video clips, and social media posts. Carter knew that the real story was more than the attention it would get. It was about trust, instincts, and a quiet heroism that could make a difference in someone's life. And in the center of it all was Rex, the dog whose instincts had saved a young life, reminding everyone present that heroes came in many forms. As evening approached, Carter remained vigilant, standing near Lily and Rex while the authorities worked. He watched as child services carefully documented everything, taking notes on Lily's condition and the sequence of events. Carter's mind replayed Rex's initial alert over and over, marveling at how a dog's instincts, honed through training and experience, had guided them to the child when no one else had noticed anything amiss. Every step of the process reinforced his respect and gratitude for his loyal partner. Eventually, as the investigation continued, and authorities began piecing together the story. Carter allowed himself a moment to breathe. He glanced down at Rex, who was lying close to Lily, resting his head but still alert, ears twitching at every sound. Carter smiled faintly. Today had been intense, exhausting, and emotionally charged, but it had been a success. The bond between a police officer and his dog had proven once again that trust, training, and intuition could make an incredible difference in the world. The evening settled over the airport, casting long shadows across the terminal. Yet in Terminal 3, a tension unlike any other filled the air. Officer James Carter remained close to Rex, whose sharp eyes scanned every movement in the area. The small crowd of passengers had thinned, but a few remained, their curiosity and concern rooted deeply in what had just happened. Everyone could sense that the story was far from over. Lily, the 4-year-old child found in the abandoned bag, sat on a cushioned bench, wrapped tightly in a warm blanket, clutching a stuffed toy with trembling hands. Despite the comfort provided by the child services officers, her eyes darted around nervously. As if searching for someone familiar in the crowded terminal, Carter knew that the critical part of the day was beginning. The initial relief of finding Lily had been replaced by questions that needed answers. Who had left her? Why had she been abandoned in such a busy place? And most importantly, how could they ensure her safety moving forward? Rex pressed close to Lily, resting his large head gently on her lap, his warm presence offering her reassurance. The bond between the dog and the child was undeniable, and it was clear to Carter that Rex's instincts had not been mistaken. He had sensed a life in need of protection, and now every moment of vigilance mattered. The authorities had intensified their efforts. Child Protective Services officers were in quiet consultation with local police, sharing observations and examining the sequence of events captured by the airport cameras. Every frame of footage was analyzed carefully. The security cameras showed glimpses of a figure briefly entering the terminal, placing the bag, and leaving quickly. However, the images were blurry, and no identifying features could be seen. Carter leaned in, watching the screens, feeling a mix of frustration and urgency. The mystery of how Lily ended up alone was puzzling. But one thing was certain. The child was now safe because of Rex, and the vigilance of everyone involved as the investigation unfolded. Carter noticed that the few passengers who remained were whispering quietly to each other, glancing at Rex and Lily with expressions of awe. Many had captured the scene on their phones, recording the dog's bravery and the careful handling of the situation by the authorities. The story, Carter realized, was about to spread far beyond the walls of the terminal. Yet, for him, the focus remained on the child. The media attention could wait. Lily's safety could not. The child services officer, a kind woman named Miss Thompson, knelt down to Lily's level. "Sweetheart, can you tell me your name?" she asked gently. Lily's voice was barely audible, but she whispered, "Lily." Miss Thompson smiled softly and nodded, giving Carter a reassuring glance. "We are going to make sure you are safe, Lily. You don't have to be scared anymore." Rex barked softly in agreement, pressing his head closer to the child. Carter felt a lump in his throat. The dog's loyalty, intuition, and protective instincts had brought them to this moment. A moment where Lily finally felt a measure of safety in the chaos of the day. Carter noticed the subtle tension building in the terminal. Even with Lily safe, the authorities were still piecing together the events, and there was a sense that the situation could shift quickly. Police officers were on their radios, coordinating with Child Protective Services, checking missing person reports and cross-referencing flight logs. Each new detail brought them closer to understanding how the child had ended up alone. Carter observed silently, standing tall but attentive, knowing that the hours ahead were critical. As the minutes passed, one of the officers discovered a lead. A local resident had reported a missing child matching Lily's description earlier that day. Carter felt a rush of hope and relief. They had been searching for her, unaware that she had been brought to the airport. The authorities quickly verified the information and contacted the family. Carter knelt beside Lily, whispering softly, "It looks like someone is coming for you, Lily. You're going to see your family soon." Lily's eyes widened slightly at the mention of family. She shifted closer to Rex, as if seeking courage from the dog, her tiny fingers curling around his fur. Within moments, a pair of frantic adults arrived at the terminal. They were Lily's aunt and uncle, who had been caring for her temporarily, but had lost track of her earlier in the day. The relief on their faces was immediate and overwhelming. Tears filled their eyes as they approached Lily, and the child's small arms reached out instinctively. Rex, sensing the change in the atmosphere, barked softly once, then sat back, allowing the family to approach. Carter stepped aside, giving them space while remaining vigilant, just in case. The reunion was emotional. Lily's aunt knelt down, hugging her tightly, whispering reassurances as tears streamed down her face. Her uncle held her hand gently, offering words of comfort. The child, finally recognizing the familiar presence of family, relaxed in their embrace. Carter watched, feeling a profound sense of fulfillment. The hours of tension, worry, and suspense had led to this moment, a successful rescue and a joyful reunion. Rex lay down quietly beside them, his eyes following every movement, ensuring that Lily was safe. Airport staff, passengers, and even the officers present felt the emotional weight of the scene. Many of the travelers who had observed the events approached cautiously, some asking if they could meet the dog or thank Officer Carter for his diligence. Carter remained humble, pointing to Rex and saying, "The real hero here is Rex." He sensed the danger, and he never left her side. The passengers nodded, many capturing the moment on their phones. Understanding that this was a story worth remembering, authorities took a few moments to ensure all details were documented. They spoke with Carter, Rex, and the family, confirming timelines and verifying that Lily was unharmed. Every step was meticulous, ensuring that there would be no mistakes or gaps in the record. Carter felt a sense of satisfaction, knowing that the combination of careful investigation, trained instincts, and quick thinking had brought them to this point. As the terminal slowly returned to normal activity, Carter watched the family leave with Lily safely in their care. Rex walked beside him, his tail wagging slightly, the tension of the day finally easing. Carter patted the dog gently on the head. "Good boy, Rex. Today you made a difference in a life that mattered." Rex responded with a soft bark, almost as if acknowledging the praise. The airport buzzed with stories of the hero dog and the calm, skilled officer who had worked tirelessly to ensure the child's safety. Social media posts, videos, and eyewitness accounts began circulating, all highlighting the remarkable events of the day. Carter knew that while recognition was not the reason he and Rex did their jobs, he could not deny the warmth that came with seeing the impact of their efforts. As evening descended fully, the terminal lights glimmered softly, reflecting on polished floors and empty chairs. Carter and Rex continued their rounds, now a bit slower, allowing the calm to return. Travelers moved through the hallways, some glancing at the pair with newfound admiration. Carter's mind replayed the events of the day, the urgency, the suspense, the careful work of the authorities, and Rex's unwavering focus. It had been a long day, but the result had been worth every moment, Carter realized, as he watched Rex resting for a moment beside a column, that heroism could take many forms. It was not always about loud acts or visible recognition. Sometimes it was about quiet vigilance, instincts honed through years of training, and the unspoken bond between a person and their animal companion. Rex had demonstrated that today, proving once again that courage and care often came in unexpected forms. The story of the abandoned bag, The vigilant dog and the frightened child would be remembered not just by those who witnessed it, but by everyone who would hear it afterward. The dramatic tension, the emotional relief, and the heroism of Rex would live in the minds of passengers, staff, and authorities alike. Carter knew that, in many ways, this day had reaffirmed his faith in the work he did and in the incredible abilities of his canine partner. And so, as the airport quieted for the night, Carter and Rex walked through the terminal, their presence a calm and steady reassurance to anyone passing by. The events of the day were extraordinary, but to them, it was simply part of the job, the vigilance, the attention, and the instinct to act when someone's life depended on it. For Officer Carter and Rex, it had been a day of tension, mystery, and ultimately, triumph, a day when instinct, training, and courage had come together to change a life forever. The airport had returned to its normal rhythm, but a sense of quiet awe lingered in Terminal 3. Travelers moved briskly toward their gates. Staff resumed their duties, and the hum of announcements filled the air once again. Yet, in the minds of those who had witnessed the earlier events, the memory of a small child, a loyal dog, and a vigilant officer remained vivid. Officer James Carter walked slowly beside Rex, the German shepherd who had captured the attention and admiration of everyone in the terminal. The dog's ears twitched with every sound, alert as ever, though now there was a calm in his movements that suggested the immediate danger had passed. Lily's family had left, with her safely in their care, holding her close and thanking the authorities repeatedly for their diligence. Carter had accompanied them briefly to ensure there were no further issues, watching as the child's tiny hand waved toward him and Rex before disappearing through the sliding doors. It was a simple gesture, but one that carried immense weight, a small signal of trust and gratitude from a child whose life had been protected when it mattered most. Carter felt a warmth in his chest, a combination of relief, pride, and quiet satisfaction. The passengers who had witnessed the event were slowly dispersing, many stopping briefly to offer thanks to Carter and Rex. Some recorded short videos on their phones, while others simply nodded or smiled. Carter waved politely, his attention focused mostly on Rex. He knew the dog had done something extraordinary. Not only had Rex detected a situation that could have become dangerous, but he had also ensured the safety of a vulnerable child. His instincts had guided everyone to the right action at the right moment. Carter reflected on the day's events, replaying them in his mind. Every step, from the moment Rex barked at the abandoned bag to the discovery of Lily, had required focus, patience, and calm decision-making. The airport had been crowded, chaotic even, and yet every action had been deliberate, precise, and careful. The bomb squad's methodical inspection, the child services officer's gentle care, and the police's quick coordination had all contributed to the positive outcome. But Carter knew that, without Rex, things could have turned out very differently. As the evening grew darker outside the terminal windows, Carter and Rex continued their rounds, walking past check-in counters, security gates, and waiting areas. Travelers glanced at them, some recognizing the dog and whispering to their companions about what they had seen. Carter smiled faintly. In a world often filled with news of danger and tragedy, it was important to remember moments of heroism and care. Today had been such a moment, a quiet example of how instinct, training, and compassion could intersect to create something extraordinary. Carter found a quiet corner of the terminal and allowed Rex to rest for a few minutes. The dog lay down, his head resting on his front paws, but his eyes remained alert, scanning the area even in moments of rest. Carter knelt beside him, patting the dog gently. "You've done it again, Rex," he said softly. "Another life saved, another day made better." Rex lifted his head, letting out a soft bark as if acknowledging the praise. It was a bond built over years of training, shared experiences, and mutual trust. Carter had come to understand that Rex was not just a partner in work. He was a companion in life, someone who would always be vigilant, protective, and courageous. The airport staff began to tidy the area where the bag had been found, carefully clearing the scene while maintaining records of the investigation. Travelers resumed their routines, though many could not help glancing back at the area, thinking of the small child who had been found and the dog who had alerted everyone. Carter observed quietly, understanding that the story would likely spread beyond the terminal, reaching people who had not been present. He felt a mix of pride and humility. The focus had never been on recognition or accolades, but on doing the right thing at the right time. Later, Carter received a call from the airport management office. They wanted to formally commend Rex for his actions, acknowledging the dog's extraordinary instincts and the vital role he had played in protecting Lily. Carter listened carefully, feeling a quiet satisfaction. He accepted the recognition on behalf of Rex, emphasizing that the dog's training, patience, and loyalty had made all the difference. It was a reminder that heroes could take many forms, and sometimes they walked on four legs. As the terminal lights dimmed slightly for the evening, Carter and Rex continued their patrol, ensuring that everything remained secure. The quiet of the night allowed Carter to reflect on the events that had unfolded earlier. He thought about Lily, the fear she must have felt, and the relief she must now be experiencing with her family. He thought about the passengers who had witnessed the event, the awe in their expressions, and the admiration they had shown for a dog whose instincts had changed the course of the day. Carter felt gratitude for the teamwork, for the careful coordination, and for the remarkable trust between a man and his dog. Rex, sensing Carter's reflective mood, lifted his head and looked at him. His eyes were intelligent, aware, and calm. Carter reached down to scratch behind Rex's ears, feeling the soft fur and the steady presence of his partner. "You did something incredible today," he whispered. Rex barked softly in reply, a simple sound that conveyed understanding and pride. It was a quiet moment, a pause in an otherwise busy day, but it carried weight far beyond the terminal walls. In the following days, the story of the police dog and the abandoned bag spread widely. Local news stations ran short features, highlighting Rex's keen instincts and the role of Officer Carter in ensuring a safe resolution. Social media posts shared videos of the event, showing Rex alerting to the bag, the careful handling of the situation by the bomb squad, and the eventual discovery of Lily. Viewers expressed amazement and admiration, commenting on the bond between Carter and Rex and the calm, careful actions that had led to a positive outcome. Carter, however, remained grounded. He understood that the story's attention was a small part of a larger truth, that vigilance, care, and compassion were what truly mattered. He knew that every day brought new challenges, and every challenge required focus, patience, and sometimes instinct. Today had been extraordinary, but it had been a culmination of years of training, experience, and teamwork. He glanced down at Rex, who was resting at his side, eyes still alert to every movement in the terminal. Carter felt a sense of deep satisfaction. Weeks later, Carter learned that Lily and her family were doing well. The child had been reunited fully with her guardians, and the authorities had completed their investigation. Carter felt a quiet relief, knowing that the outcome had been positive, and that the small, frightened child had returned to a safe and loving environment. Rex, as always, remained vigilant, ready for the next challenge, ready to protect those in need. As Carter walked through the terminal during a routine patrol, he noticed travelers glancing at him and Rex with respect and appreciation. Some smiled knowingly, remembering the extraordinary event that had unfolded weeks earlier. Carter nodded politely, acknowledging their recognition while keeping his focus on the task at hand. He knew that the work of a police officer and his dog was never finished. But moments like these reminded him why the job mattered. Reflecting on the day, Carter realized that heroism often came in quiet, unassuming ways. It was not always about grand gestures or visible recognition. Sometimes it was about instincts, attention to detail, and the courage to act when others might hesitate. Rex had demonstrated all of these qualities, alerting to danger, protecting the vulnerable, and maintaining calm under pressure. Carter felt gratitude for having such a partner, and he knew that their bond had only strengthened through the experience gained as the airport settled into night. Carter and Rex concluded their patrol. The terminal was calm, lights dimmed, and the echoes of the day's events lingered in the quiet corners. Carter reached down to pat Rex one last time. "We did good today, boy," he whispered. Rex lifted his head, letting out a soft bark, his eyes reflecting intelligence and pride. Together, they had faced uncertainty, tension, and mystery, and together, they had made a difference. The story of the abandoned bag, the vigilant dog, and the frightened child would remain a tale shared among travelers, airport staff, and authorities for years to come. It was a story of instinct, courage, and compassion, a reminder that sometimes heroes arrive on four legs, guided by intuition and loyalty. For Officer Carter, it was a day that would remain etched in his memory. A day when a dog's instincts saved a life, and a child's future was forever changed by vigilance, teamwork, and care. Carter glanced at Rex one final time as they exited the terminal for the night. The dog's ears twitched, alert even in rest, a silent promise that they would always be ready for the next call, the next challenge, the next life in need. Carter smiled faintly, feeling a profound sense of pride and connection. Today had been extraordinary, and while recognition was welcome, the real reward was knowing that a life had been saved. Together, man and dog had proven that courage, attention, and loyalty could change the world one small act at a time, as they disappeared into the quiet night. Carter and Rex were ready for whatever challenges awaited, confident in their ability to face danger, protect the vulnerable, and act with calm determination. The airport would continue to